10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. We've gone for main engine start. We have main engine start.
STS-1 was the first space shuttle mission of the United States, which began on April 12, 1981 and ended on April 14 with the return to Earth. In this mission, the Space Shuttle Columbia orbited the Earth 37 times in a period of 54.5 hours. This was America's first space mission after the joint Apollo-Soyuz operation in 1975. STS-1 was the first manned flight of a new generation of American spacecraft, and was actually a test of passing through the atmosphere of such spaceship. Years before SpaceX captivated the world with its reusable Falcon 9 rockets, NASA pursued a similar goal with its Space Shuttle program. Prior to the introduction of the Space Shuttle, humans did not have the ability to reuse expensive rockets and spacecraft. None of the parts and components used in Soviet and American rockets, the two poles of the aerospace industry in the late 20th century, were recoverable or reusable. The Space Shuttle was the world's first reusable spacecraft, launched for the first time in 1981. It had three main components: the orbiter, the booster engines, and the external fuel tank. The main feature of the shuttle was that its most important component, the orbiter, could be launched into space multiple times and land on Earth. The heat-resistant ceramic tiles on the shuttle's orbiter body prevented it from burning up when re-entering Earth's atmosphere. Not only was this the first launch of a space shuttle, but it was also the first time solid-fuel rockets were used to send astronauts into space in the United States. This was America's first manned flight using a vehicle that had been tested without a crew. The STS-1 orbiter, Columbia, due to the large number of heat shield tiles used and their placement. The main objectives of this flight were to test the shuttle's main capabilities, including shuttle system testing, safe ascent and descent. The payload capacity only included flight development hardware, consisting of sensors and measuring instruments that recorded performance and stress on the orbiter during launch, ascent, orbiting, re-entry and landing. All mission objectives were successfully achieved and it was proven that shuttles are reliable vehicles for spaceflight. The shuttle reached an orbital altitude of 166 miles on STS. 37 orbits around Earth, covering a distance of 1,074,567 miles in a time of 2 days, 6 hours. The spacecraft landed on runway 23 at Edwards Air Force Base in California on April 14, 1981 at 10:21 local time. Columbia was returned to Kennedy Space Center by a special shuttle carrier aircraft on April 28. Despite having large budgets, even this limited access to space sometimes seemed very extravagant for government organizations. For example, NASA's annual budget in the 1960s during the height of the space race reached $5.9 billion, about 4% of the total federal budget at the time. The cost of space programs in the 20th century was so high that many believe one of the reasons for the economic bankruptcy of the Soviet Union and its subsequent collapse was its regime's massive investment in the space race with America. In the late 1930s, Nazi Germany began a project called America Bomber. The goal of this project was to build an aircraft that could take off from German soil and bomb America by crossing the Atlantic Ocean. His proposed design, called Silverbird, was essentially a winged rocket. Although the Silbervogel was never built, its conceptual designs fell into American hands after the fall of Nazi Germany and became the basis for building America's first rocket plane. And I'd like to share your opinion with me.